Today, at our dialogue series, Thinking Without Banisters, an initiative of our GLab 2B research lab, I spoke with Jianhao Su, a university student with a really unique perspective, on one hand, from the Western world here in Spain, and as well from China. We spoke about how to learn, how to be a university student or to be a student in the 21st century, how China sees the world, how he sees the world, and how we can face the global challenges, as well with collective responsibility. So, thank you very much for listening. Today, I have a dialogue with a university student. This time, not to teach him nor to evaluate him, just to listen, to understand how he sees the world, what questions he asks himself, and what place he imagines for himself in this world. Jen Hao, welcome to our dialogue series Thinking Without Banisters.
Thank you so much, Professor Leo, for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here, and let's see if we can reach some conclusions from this dialogue.
All right, so how are you? From where are you talking right now?
I'm right now in China, uh,
Hmm.
in my hometown, but I'm from the University of Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona. I'm here because I want to spend like this summer with my grandparents since a long time not seeing them, and because in September I'm going to do my
Hmm.
exchange program in Hong Kong, so I'm closer if I'm in China.
Okay, all right. So right now we have between us maybe around 10,000 kilometers. So there's a quite huge distance. The good thing is with this dialogue, we feel close. We have a common space here together, which is great. So maybe we can start a little bit more about talking about a little bit about China. So when you are there right now with your grandparents, which is great. So a lot of people here in Europe, and sometimes it's terms of perspective, right? Talk about the Chinese collective thinking. So here in Europe, there we say, okay, we have as well collective thinking, but there's a lot of individualism as well. How do I have that to imagine in China, this collective thinking, the family thinking? So how do you see that?
So okay, just to give you an example of
Yeah.
this that quite impacted me a lot is when I was
Hmm.
still at the airport of Barcelona, waiting for my onboarding to the plane. And yeah, since it's a direct flight from Barcelona to Shanghai, which is one of the Chinese capitals,
Yeah.
uh, like there were a lot of Chinese people waiting there, and probably none of us knew each other. But anyways, like we were like very open to like if someone had any question, we were like all very willing to help. Like for elder people that it's the first time that they're going back to China and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And yes, still there was like two very old people that was sitting next to me waiting for onboarding, and they were like eating some snacks, Chinese snacks, and one of them had like something like very common in China, which is dried meat, which is kind of like seen as a snack rather than an ordinary meal. And one of them was like looking to it at the other, and all of a sudden they approached to him and asked him if he could like have some of this dried meat. And these other older people told him that it was already fine, that not a problem. And when they give you like this dried meat, uh, the let's call them people A and people B. Okay, the people A is
Hmm.
the one who asked for the dried meat, and the people B told him that he also had like more food if he wanted some, that he would just feel free to ask. and all of this was like something I had never seen. And I felt like the Chinese people in this case is like uh, we kind of feel that we belong to something greater than ourselves. That is to belong
Okay.
to like being Chinese is something greater than being like someone individual.
Yeah.
And I think that this was like the very first time I experienced something like that before coming to China, and quite kind of impacted me a little.
Yeah, this is a really interesting story, to be honest, Jan. How when you start to tell this story, of course, I was listening carefully, but the more and more you explained how important, how deep this is, I felt like a little kind of nervousness. Not sure why, but it made me feel really emotive. You know what I mean? That we are able, that you are able to think first on somebody else and then on your own, that you're part of something bigger. Of course, here in Europe, mainly Christianism or other religions, that there's the thinking as well that there's something bigger than you, but it's a religious thing. I understand that in China, this is this is definitely not a religious thing, right? It's something you learn from very small.
Yeah, I think this is something that, for instance, I was grown here. Like I spent here almost my whole entire life since I was born in, in Mataró, Barcelona.
Hmm.
Nonetheless, I also think that my mindset is very similar to the Chinese people, more than the Spanish people. And maybe this is because the way my parents raised me when I was a child.
Hmm.
And I think that more than religious thing, as you said, it's more like kind of cultural. Like it's culturally uh, inherent in other Chinese people.
Hmm. Okay, because what maybe felt, not what I thought, what I felt is that this is like a link of trust you have, and trust at the end is the foundation of maybe everything we do in life, right?
Yeah, that's it. I've also feel like I also felt that through my entire life, I found it like more easier to connect with Chinese people rather than
Mhm.
Spanish people, and I think that maybe it's because of this cultural thing I just mentioned. There is since we kind of have like this some background, kind of
Hmm.
background of being raised like by a parent, Chinese parents, but living in Spain. We kind of like be more like empathetic with each other, and like whenever we get to know each other, like it's easier to have more things in common rather than with like Spanish people.
Okay. Do you think, just to the last point on this, do you think that, of course, when we talk about this way of, well, this cultural, we could say, tradition in that case, which comes through trust, do you think having this helps you to deal better with uncertainty, so with the future, which you may which so maybe a lot of people are afraid of because they do not know what will come. And but do you imagine that you on yourself, that uncertainty is not that big issue, as you have this collective, as you have this family thinking, that somebody will take care of you, even if, I don't know, your career or whatever does not go the way you think or whatever? Do you think, do you feel a little bit more calm in that way?
Yeah, like maybe I've thought more about this like lately because since I'm like at the final stage of my career, next year I'm doing fourth, and then I have to decide either if I'm doing a master's degree or directly to looking for a job. Uh,
Mhm.
I think that I've thought like many times what will happen to me if, like, for instance, I couldn't find like a suitable job for me, or if I'm not happy with that. If like there is something that is back up me back, uh, like if I didn't want to do anything related with my career, And
Hmm.
I think that the answer is yes. Like kind of uh, the culture under which I've been raised is kind
Hmm.
of like very supportive with each other. And in the case of my family, for instance, I feel that my parents have always told me that if I don't want to do anything right in my career, I can always like try to. They will help me alongside with many other relatives to kind of start a business or like kind of a restaurant or
Hmm.
a small shop or something like that. So in that sense, for instance, almost all the Chinese people that is living in Spain kind of runs the same business more or less. They have a restaurant or uh,
Yeah.
a bar. Yeah,
Yeah, no, this is something I realized as well myself a little bit when I see or when of some Chinese friends or business relations or something like that, or at the university as well. We talked about trust before. We talked about uncertainty, right?
yeah,
So when China is the country right now where the most patents, so the most ideas are brought up
yeah,
out there and converted into something tangible, so like a business or any other idea. So with those patents, this it's a good indicator to see that a lot of people don't are afraid of the future and just take their idea and try to make it come true. Of course, I could imagine that this collective thinking, this trust you have in your society, in your people, in your family, can help as well to drive innovation.
So in this sense, I think that the patents you just mentioned, uh, I think that this approach is more kind of like, for instance, it's very well known that China can be known as a communist country, but yet still you can see like many capitalism features in
Mhm.
its economy. And I think that this is because I think that it's a more efficient way in order to get more advanced technologically and economically. So
Yeah.
in this sense, the like the innovation-driven patents that you mentioned that China has is the country with most patents, and it's kind of like shows off the 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 mentality that the Chinese people
Mhm.
have in order to like be like steady innovating every time and always trying to like get the most of each one, because if you come to China you will see
Mhm.
that even a waiter or waitress, like whenever they work they like put in a lot of effort. I mean, since China has a lot of people living here, uh, the workforce is very competitive. So like each of us, like each of the Chinese people is trying to work very hard in order to like uh, the most valuable be the most valuable asset for the company.
Yeah, this I think this is a really interesting mix. No, on one hand, thinking about the collective, which is more cooperative approach, and then have this let's say competitiveness. So there's a lot of competition as well to do your best always, right?
Yeah, because if you want to cooperate, it's also about giving your best to the to the
Okay.
to the common for the common. But
Okay, so
you're
like
doing
you
your best.
sacrifice as well a little bit for the others. So if you give your best, you sacrifice for the others.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And if everyone does the same, like it becomes like a very competitive environment as well.
Okay, very interesting because if we just add here some facts, we know that China has the one of the most, maybe the second right now, biggest economy in the world. Uh, of course, we have to say as well as the most CO2 emissions, but on the other hand, the most investments in green technology. So it's a country or a nation which is growing fast, really fast, and which has a mix of collective and individual thinking, maybe, but more the focus on the collective thinking. Okay, so it's really interesting, to be honest. But you're now a student, right? So what does it mean for you to be a student? Maybe here in Spain, or maybe in China. You said you will study in Hong Kong soon. So what does it mean to be a student of the 21st century?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to add like something for real quick. Since you told that China was one of the countries that invested the most on green technologies, like
Hmm.
just for to give you an example, the city I'm living right now, which is called Wenzhou, has around nine
Okay.
people citizens. And if you
Hmm.
go to the streets, you'll find out that almost the 70% or 80% of all the cars and motorbikes are electric. So this transition has kind of impacted me a lot because the last time I was here, like 10 years ago, this was not the case, like by far.
Okay.
So
So
there has
in
been a
10
great
years that
improvement.
sorry, Jianhao, just to highlight that. So in 10 years, you saw like kind of completely, or a huge transformation. We have to say transformation is something which is new, has not too much to do with what you had before, right? So you
Yeah,
saw a different city, a different place.
yeah, completely. Yeah, it
Okay.
was insane for me. It was like, how is this possible? Because I was also aware that China is one of the countries that emitted most CO2 of
Hmm.
CO2 in the world.
Hmm.
So this was kind of like made me thought that maybe China, even though we're polluting a lot, we're like doing huge efforts in order to offset that,
Yeah,
you know.
of course. Hmm.
So, but nonetheless, throughout my entire education process, okay, let's call it that way, many professors like have been telling us like many times that nowadays we have like more facilities in order to learn and like to be more educated because of the internet, for instance. That when they were studying, it was like kind of a limited technology and with a limited scope as well. So I think that, for instance, one of the main impacts I've seen that is about artificial intelligence. Because
Hmm.
when I was studying, like in the high school, it didn't exist. But nowadays, I know that almost all of the students are using, for instance, ChatGPT whenever doing their homework, and this is, I think, like one of the groundbreaking stages, uh,
Hmm.
despite internet. So for me, I will say that it's way most more easier to learn now. Just for you to know, I came to China just to learn Chinese because my Chinese is not perfect since like I've grown like with my parents, but like I should learn how to write, how to read because I only know how to speak. Let's say it that way. And now that I'm using, for instance, DeepSeek because ChatGPT is not allowed in China,
Hmm.
I kind of felt that I improved a lot my Chinese just by learning on my own and without the need of a teacher, for instance. It could also be because I have also like already a basis on which like build my level of Chinese. But anyways, I think that without DeepSeek or this artificial intelligence, like 5, 10 years ago, it would have been impossible without a teacher to learn a new language, for instance.
Hmm. Okay. Maybe we can put here a little bit my perspective as well as a university professor. Of course, um, for me, independent from the subject I teach, um, critical thinking, or the to help you to, or help the students that they think on their own, is one of the most important tasks I see as a teacher in that moment. of course, when we talk about artificial intelligence or ChatGPT, any language model out there, it's something you can use it in an easy way, easy input, easy output, or you can really use it as a tool which can help you to go deeper in your work, to find more sources, and all those things. So what I see the problem is if we use it in a superficial way, it doesn't convert into learning. It converts into maybe creating content, you using it efficiently in terms of I have it done, but maybe it is not something which makes you grow, because at the end, when you generate something which you did not think about on your own, you will lose it quite fast, right? So how do you see that? I mean, how is artificial intelligence used by the most of the students, generally speaking, of course?
Yes, you mentioned the AI tools can be very useful. But for instance, the people I know that is using it at the high school, whenever they have to make like kind of a essay or try to solve some mathematical calculus, uh, I think that if they're doing it with the AI, they're kind of losing the critical thinking they could have acquired. Like these soft skills are kind
Mhm.
of being like uh, I think that well, one of the main things the main skill I've got from the high school is the critical thinking, because it's the ability to try to solve problems by your own is
Yeah.
something that you have to learn, because uh, you cannot like rely on other things, and also like on a daily basis when trying to solve like day-to-day problems. I think it's something like very basic that if you don't kind of let's say that learn it from school maybe,
Hmm.
and these small things you're like losing it. So uh the like the teenagers nowadays, I think that they're like losing these all of these skills, and they're not realizing it. And whenever they have to face a real life problem, they kind of have like struggle a lot for something that for us would be like very obvious the solution.
Okay.
So what do you think?
So yeah. So I would say in the past, let's go a little bit back. Of course, part of my work is always getting back to history and looking what was how it was done in the past, and what were the solutions or what were the consequences, right? To learn like that for the future. And of course, I realized that in the past, and maybe it's still a little bit. Maybe you can confirm that or not, but that a lot of professors at universities, mainly or in school, sometimes they own the knowledge. Okay, or this was in the past. They own the knowledge. They read the book. They studied the topic, and then trespass this information, or taught this information or this topic to the students. And this was how it was done today, of course, and especially with not only with artificial intelligence, as well with the internet, of course, generally speaking. Um, the knowledge is everywhere. There's a lot of knowledge, and the problem is not that we don't have the knowledge. It's more the problem that we don't know how to manage all those or this vast amount of knowledge. And of course, if knowledge is democratized that way, which is great, the professor maybe does not have anymore the role to own the knowledge and simply trespass it in a lecture to the students. It's more like that maybe a professor should be like a coach. So trying to use or build like kind of a triangle between the content or the topic, the student, and the professor itself, and like that create a dynamic place to discuss. Because of course there are a lot of models out there we can study, and maybe they are definitely useful. But as we live in a constant change, those models maybe sometimes do not apply, which were created by by scientists sometimes. And we have to discuss that. We have to debate that. We have to find new solutions or adapt those things. So I see more the role as a professor as well, and for university as more a dynamic place to create new knowledge or at least see how we can use the knowledge we have and drill it down, reduce it in a way that it makes sense to find the solution of a problem. How do you see that?
Yeah, for instance, just to give you like a example, during the
Mm-hmm.
lockdown, because of the technology advancements, we could like have some online classes, something that maybe 20 years ago it would haven't be possible.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
like the fact that in 2020 we were able like to have these kind of online classes, and made it like uh, for the very first time ask ourselves like how is gonna be the future education system and to which extent this digitalization is gonna impact the education system. And just for instance, I had like some I did some an internship in a technology consultancy. And
Mm-hmm.
since the lockdown, before the lockdown, they had to go to the office like the entire week, the working days from Monday to Friday. But after the lockdown, they only had to go like 1 day per week to the office as a
Okay.
mandatory. So uh, the fact that, like, I think that the COVID uh, started like a new era of digitalization, something that we were not like that much aware of. But after that, we know like the potential it had, so we started to implement it a lot. And for instance, in the university, for instance, I had some lectures that were made online, just because the professor couldn't go to the classroom or anything like that. And I think that in this case, the digital technologies can help a lot, but yet still we do need have to have like some professors, some teachers that uh like give us that human touch that we need
Mm-hmm.
uh when we're learning. And
Okay. Sorry to get in there. Human.
that's fine.
Okay. How do you mean that? Like some that the professor can be like vulnerable as well, that he does not know everything. Is it that to
I
a
would say
professor
that,
who's open? Huh?
of course, uh I mean, for instance, whenever we try to discuss a scientific research, and which is
Hmm.
not proven 100% with certainty, like there are a lot of opinions that might be biased in kind of a sense. So professors may not know everything for sure, but yes, they can give us the like the way they're reasoning, uh, and of course, like learn from them. For instance, here in China, it's very common to respect a lot of the teachers because it's given that like it's we kind of assume that they know uh, much more than us, so we
Hmm.
have to learn from them. That's why
Hmm.
for
I,
at least
I think
here,
assuming that they know in a specific topic more than you, I think this is correct. But is that in China the teaching the same as in Europe? Maybe can find the common things or differences.
do you mean differences between the education system in Chinese in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, you said in China that the professor is maybe much more respect person or somebody who you assume that he knows much more, and therefore for that reason you simply listen more. Maybe is that
Yeah,
is that correct, or maybe I understood that
yeah.
wrong?
From very young, like from very young age, they
Hmm.
kind of learn to respect the teachers. and throughout their entire academic life, it's like stays the same in that way. So I will say that uh, the kind of like the distance between the student and the professor is kind of
Hmm.
larger than in Europe, but
Okay.
because of that respect I just mentioned before.
If the
Yeah,
distance is bigger, is the learning different? Is the learning better? Is it worse? Is it the same? Or which impact has that in your learning?
like just for you to get an idea, the high school
Hmm.
here starts at 7 in the morning and ends at 6 in the afternoon.
Okay,
So they
so
kind of
it's
feel like,
like all day, we could say.
yeah, the all day.
Hmm.
And after the classes they also have like kind of extracurricular classes, like
Hmm.
to keep learning from any material, like any subject that they're not like completely fine during the lectures. So I would say that they are like during the whole weekend, well, during the whole week they're studying. Whenever they reach the weekend, they do have another extracurricular classes, so they're like not a non-stop of studying. So I would say that you could say that this is better or worse than in Europe, depending on which uh, benchmarks you want to use. Because of course here the students are way more disciplined than in Europe, but which is the price you have to pay to get that, you know?
Okay, that's really interesting, Jianhao. I mean, we met here at University Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona in an international degree. So there was or there is a lot of diversity. So from people from a lot of different nations, places, cultures. So a lot of people from different nations and cultures. Do you think that it helps to learn to have to be in a more diverse environment with different types of students, different types of thinking, or is it? How do you see that?
Yeah, yeah. As you mentioned, I'm studying international business, and now during my third and fourth course, there are a lot of international students that come here for Erasmus, for instance, or as an exchange student as well. And I would say that uh, more now than before is like needed to embrace this diversity, because it's kind of unavoidable to kind of connect with international people, and more if we want to work for international companies. Just to give you an example, here in China, I've been here for almost 2 weeks, and I haven't seen uh, like not a single tourist in China, at least in my city, which has 9 million people. So I would kind of assume that in the high school there are neither like international students. Maybe in the university level there are more, but for instance, the high school I've grown up in my hometown in Alicante in Spain. Uh, there were also like a lot of students from different backgrounds. Like there were Chinese people, there were like from United States, there were from France, like from many different countries. So maybe in Europe there is more diversity uh, in between the countries, but at least in Asian countries, maybe this can be seen like it's less frequent in that sense.
Hmm. Okay, but do you think in terms of learning, in terms of understanding, let's say the world, is it for you more interesting to have more diversity in your life in that way?
Yeah, of course, because I've learned a lot of things from people from different backgrounds. For instance,
Hmm.
uh, during my last job, I had well, my last internship, I had a colleague that was from Morocco,
Okay.
and like he was explaining me a lot of traditions from his country and the reasons why the Moroccan people like behave in certain ways, or also he was explaining me like many religious like activities they carry out throughout the year, and it kind of like opened my eyes and helped me to understand better like why some people behave the way they behave. So living in a very diverse, culturally diverse country, it's like very needed to understand why people from different backgrounds may be the way they are. So I think
Hmm.
that yeah, in that
Okay, so
sense, like
it drives like empathy, so to understand, to listen, to understand how they think and see the world.
yeah, that's it, and like being honored to study like an international degree with people from many different backgrounds, it's kind of uh, like helps me a lot to connect with people from many different countries, and also helping me to understand their culture as well.
Okay, because I asked that mainly because to understand, I mean, when we talk a little bit about the global challenges we have right now, of course, from Europe, we see that the three big challenges we have right now. One is at first the climate change, definitely. We have as well a lot of global conflicts in different areas. The perception, at least, is that there are more than ever. Maybe this is not 100% true because we had a lot of conflicts as well in the past. But with the climate change, with those global conflicts, and as well a lot of, well, let's say, problems in some economies of the world which are decreasing as well. So we have some huge challenges out there. Do you think that diversity, or let's say global cooperation, could be a solution to connect much more, to see what we have in common, so the problems we have in common, rather than to compete against each other, not having in account those global challenges? So, do you feel more optimistic or pessimistic about that? How do you see that?
I think that of course when we're trying to approach like these kind of common problems like the climate change, I think that cooperation is fundamental because of course this is all about theory
Hmm.
that if everyone behaves on its behalf and does not like uh, think on the others, the
Hmm. So we're getting back here to the collective thinking, right?
yeah, that's it. Like the outcome will always like be worse off rather than if we all cooperate, because in that sense, for instance, nowadays there are like many conflicts that are arising. For instance, the there is this kind of custom duties war between USA and China,
Hmm.
which is the main affected people are the citizens from both countries, and in that sense, I think that they should kind of like get an agreement and like try to cooperate on behalf of everyone, because uh, at the end we're like all living the same world. So I don't see it like uh, very reasonable to
Hmm.
kind of have these conflicts because of maybe differences in the culture, for instance. So what do you think?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one of our jobs here at the G Lab to be research lab we have. is to try to investigate on what are the reasons that we do not cooperate enough in this world globally between different cultures. I mean, as you said before, we have a lot of diversity, a lot of different types of thinking, which can bring up a lot of different types of ideas. And of course, and we have to say, global challenges means we have as well global interests. If there are global challenges, we should see that as an interest and then cooperate. Maybe just through that, for that reason, that we have all those the same interest in that aspect. That every economy is going well. That everybody has kind of a good life in that way. Everybody wants to have peace in the world as well. As well, maybe those people who are initiating those conflicts or those wars, they want to have peace. I think here we can agree. And of course, when we see that, so we have this lot of things in common. It's not always to see what differences we have. It's about maybe to see what we have in common, to see in those in others. When we say others and other cultures and other things, there it's really generic, and maybe sometimes we have to be generic to make things understandable. But it's sometimes more a global thinking, a collective thinking, which is necessary than this individual thinking. Of course, we have nations, a lot of nations. I have a world map behind me where I have the political of borders there. But of course, there are not really borders on global challenges. We should try to not see that too much, to have this global thinking. And of course, when I think about China, this collective thinking, this way of thinking, honestly, I would love if China, in that case, and now talking from the perspective being in Europe, would share much more of this cultural, collective thinking to the world as well, and add more value in that sense. Besides the economy and besides all those innovations which are coming from there right now. Okay, but this cultural thing of collective thinking would help everybody a lot to understand better as well one big part of the world, but would help as well to see ourselves maybe a little bit more in the mirror and say, okay, hey, we could act differently. We could do it in another way, and together it makes much more sense than be doing it alone, or just acting through our own interests, right? So I mean, there are a lot of opportunities there. Let's say like that.
Of course, I mean, I think that at least in this case, China has like a lot of potential in order to like show to the world like the collectivism you were mentioning right before.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that through cooperation, these global challenges, like there are no frontiers for global challenges. That's why I think that, yeah, I agree with you, and I see that maybe uh, these kind of issues could be solved like very straightforwardly if we did all cooperate instead of behave very selfishly in that sense.
Mhm. All right, Jianhao. Today you helped us to see the world through your eyes as well a lot. It was a really interesting dialogue, interesting perspectives, analyzing what is the situation now, what it could be in the future. So, thank you very much for this dialogue.
Thank you so much for inviting me.